What's up, everybody? Welcome back. We have another edition of the Lifelong Rivals Sports Podcast. A different segment here this week. We started a new thing last week where we got away from just a weekly breakdown of the college football and the sports scene, and we kind of dive into some other topics. Just a conversational piece between Zach and myself. If you remember and you listened to last week, our episode was about the media and ESPN and radio and television and the direction that's heading, which is a bad direction according to Zach and I. And we broke that down and we both had really good opinions and really good insight onto kind of that project there. So this week, I should say, I'm really excited about this one. I was excited about last week. I'm really excited about this one too, because in the way things are going in the world right now, and it seems that it almost seems like every day for that matter, but there's something just awful going on in our country or in the world, whether it's, natural disasters, whether it's, killings, bombings, whatever it may be. There just seems to always be something negative going around. And Zach and I know, Zach, that's one of the reasons, one of your best qualities, one of the reasons why you're such a good friend to me, and I am as well, is we're both really positive people. We're both really positive people. We have really positive mindsets and outlooks on life. And that's one thing that we're going to tie this episode with, is we're going to talk about the positive athletes and the positive people and what positive things they're doing in sports, and not only in sports, but specifically in the community, and using their platform to make a difference in the community and to other people's lives. So we've each picked a few athletes, Zach, that kind of are special to us, and the stories that we've read and dug up on that stuck out to us. So we're going to kind of bounce back and forth, give our different athletes, talk about them and talk about what they're doing, and shed some light on some people and the good that these athletes are doing. So why don't you kick us off, Zach, here with your first guy and what he's doing for his community.
One story that really stood out to me was definitely Deshaun Watson, rookie quarterback there in Houston. Unfortunately, he's out for the season right now, but already as a rookie, he's been doing some incredible things here. And one thing I loved about researching this episode, I thought it might be a little bit difficult to find stories and find different players that are doing amazing things in their community. I was overwhelmed with how many people are on teams, whether it's star players, whether it's end of the bench kind of guys, whether it's middle of the roster type players. So many athletes in so many different sports are doing amazing, amazing things. And I was really inspired by a lot of these stories, but I'm excited about this first one. They actually had video of it as well, so I definitely recommend you can go check that out. But Deshaun Watson, his first check in the NFL, he gave it to 3 specific individuals. They were all cafeteria workers there that served the Houston Texans, and all of them and their families were affected by Hurricane Harvey at that time. And he dedicated that first check to those 3 individuals. And I loved seeing the video where you could see their genuine appreciation. I know one lady asked immediately if she could hug him, and then they all gave him big hugs. They were very emotional. And one of my favorite parts of that story was how it's a cycle. When Deshaun Watson was younger, Warrick Dunn was an NFL running back for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This is when Deshaun Watson was 11 years old that his family received a new house from Habitat for Humanity. And Warrick Dunn's foundation was they had a role in that, and then they actually furnished the house for Deshaun Watson's family. So he experienced that. He benefited from it when he was younger. And now he's in the NFL. He's doing the same thing. He's helping out people within his community. He knows how much that benefited him. And I love the individual touch. I really appreciate how there's a lot of different players and coaches and owners as well that have their different foundations and different things set up like that where you can give money to. But I loved how he went directly to the individuals and affected their specific life. They will never, ever in their lives forget that, those cafeteria workers. And same thing with probably everyone that was present, whether it was a teammate, whether it's a coach, whether it's someone's kids, anybody that was there to witness that. And now that we have this age of the internet that you're able to see it so easily, it can influence other people. And I really love that story and that cycle of how he was affected by Warrick Dunn, and it's just kind of being passed on. So that really stood out to me this week.
Yeah, that is cool how it did come full circle. I think that's one of the better parts of the piece is how he was affected when he was a child, and now he's trying to give back, which is fantastic. I remember seeing that piece, Zach, when it came out, and it's cool because I mean there are three cafeteria workers who probably I'm sure all three of them probably think that those players don't even think they exist. They just serve them their food and they get the food from and they go about their day. But Deshaun Watson making a big impact, obviously, for those three women and their families. And like you said, something they'll never forget, rightfully so. So great job by Deshaun Watson there. And I'm sure, being a rookie with this good a head on his shoulders, I'm sure things are only going to continue to get better, and I'm sure he'll continue to do great things in the community. So tip of the hat to him. My first guy that I'm going to talk about, my first player, is a guy on the Philadelphia Eagles and a guy who, up until this year, I didn't know anything about, really. I knew he was a top draft pick. I knew he went to the University of Virginia. I knew that his career didn't plan out like a lot of people thought, maybe. And I knew he won a Super Bowl last year. Other than that, I didn't know anything about Chris Long, the person, until I saw a piece on him a few weeks ago. It was prior to the Monday Night Football game. And it really started to kind of inspire me and kind of want to learn more. So obviously everyone knows about Chris Long's situation at this point with him donating his game checks. He's donated his entire 2017 salary, which is equivalent to $1 million. So he has donated $1 million to benefit educational charities in 3 U.S. cities, the 3 U.S. cities that he has played for, that being St. Louis, that being Boston. He played for New England. So Boston is a city there, and then obviously the city that he is with now in the city of Philadelphia. So what he's doing, the campaign is called Pledge 10 for Tomorrow. It basically what it does is it tries to get equal opportunity education for kids everywhere. He basically feels that education is a driving force for the younger generation, and he feels that everyone needs to have the opportunity to get a good education. So that's the driving force behind what Chris Long is doing. And Chris Long actually went on the Ellen DeGeneres show just this past week. It's funny we're talking about this. He was just on there this past week, and she actually made a $30,000 contribution to this organization. So, I mean, a lot of people are coming and contributing to his organization, which, like I said, is called Pledge 10 for Tomorrow, which anyone, if you're out there, you can absolutely donate to it and contribute to it. So that's another one, another situation that a player is doing great things. And that's great and all. This next one to me, though, it's by the same guy, Chris Long. This next one to me, though, is the piece I was referring to. I saw it prior to the Monday Night Football game against Washington. That really made me want to dig into Chris Long and kind of see what he's doing. He has a foundation. I don't want to call it a foundation, but it's a group that he calls the Water Boys. Basically, what it is it unites NFL players from across the league in a service. As Water Boys, they team up and they provide clean, accessible drinking water to rural communities of East Africa. So up to date, they have put 26 wells in East Africa to provide these people with clean drinking water. Because something that we take for granted, I mean, something that us in this country take for granted, and something that we get to do every day is drink clean water. These people didn't have that luxury. I mean, they would have to. I mean, it's funny because like you see it on different shows and movies that with the girls putting the big canteen on their head and walking down to the river and getting water, albeit it's dirty and infested. But that's what they had to do. They would have to walk miles to get this water, and now that Chris Long and his water boys that he calls them are providing these players, or excuse me, providing these people with clean drinking water is great. And I'm just going to run through the list of players that are on the roster of the Water Boys. You have Chris Long, obviously, his brother Kyle Long, he plays for the Bears. You have Connor Barwin, plays for the Rams. Johnny Hecker, who also plays for the Rams. TJ Lang, Chad Greenway, Taylor Lewan, Brian Cushing, Calais Campbell, Anquan Bolden, Jared Odrick, James Laurinaitis, Zach Martin from the Cowboys, and Myles Garrett, rookie number 1 overall pick for the Cleveland Browns. So I love what Chris Long is doing, and I love who he is as a person. He is someone that is kind of inspiring me, and I'm trying to figure out. I've talked to you a couple weeks ago about some stuff. I'm trying to figure out how I can figure out a way to kind of help people out and start some sort of organization or something. It's just in the brainstorming process now, but this kind of stuff's really starting to inspire me and want to do something and help others. So Chris Long, I tip my hat to you, my man. Keep doing the good work.
Yeah, huge respect, even from a huge fan of a rival team. And one next story I'll get to is a Dallas Cowboys specifically here that really stood out. This is Dak Prescott, who he went through a tough time as a sophomore in college. He actually lost his mother to cancer, and that's why he's done a lot of work when it comes to cancer, when it comes to research, raising awareness, looking for different cancer treatments when it comes to research. And he actually has a Ready, Raise, Rise movement that he started with someone else that helps support that. Like I said, with some of the awareness, some of the different charity type events that they do. That's something that he's very, very passionate about. And he has that. It obviously hit close to home. That's something that he does all this. He's talked about it in multiple interviews that he does this for his mom and in memory of her. Obviously, that's tough for anyone to go through, whether it's a mother, whether it's any family member, someone you know. Pretty much everyone has known someone who's had some kind of struggle with cancer or died because of cancer. And that's a huge issue that comes up, that he's spending money, he's spending time, and raising awareness and funds for that specific research. So love to see that from him. That was one of the stories that stood out there. And another quick one that stood out that I just love the story, since we're in the division anyway, with a couple Redskins players that they were at a GameStop. There's a kid talking to someone else about how he couldn't afford an Xbox. And Rob Kelly and Keith Marshall were there and overheard him saying that. And they actually offered to buy him an Xbox. They asked his mom if it was okay. And they bought him that and a game, and just made his day. He took pictures with them. And that's something they didn't do it. Like, someone else that was there reported about it, and they wrote about it and how great of people they were, but they didn't do it to promote themselves or anything like that. It was just a need they saw. It was something that they could directly affect that kid's life. And I'd love to see that from any team, from any player in any sport, that they're just willing to do something amazing for someone within their community. And it doesn't even have to be an athlete. That's something that people can do every day with someone you know, someone down the street, someone that you've come in contact with, something you overhear like that. And
Yeah.
I just love hearing stories like that, even if it's from a rival team.
Yeah, that's a cool story. I hadn't heard that one, Zach, about them buying the kid the Xbox. That's awesome. I mean, that's what it's all about. So that's really cool. Yeah, and props to Dak Prescott. He's doing some good things there, and inspired from losing his mother, which obviously is terrible. But props to him. So my next guy is. Involved in a sport in soccer where a lot of people in America aren't that involved with soccer, but this guy is something special. Cristiano Ronaldo, who is one of the better players. It's always debated whether he's the best soccer player in the world or it's Lionel Messi, but Ronaldo is fantastic. He's from Portugal. He's actually the highest paid athlete in the world. The highest paid athlete. So this guy's 32 years old. He's still relatively young. He's only 3-4 years older than we are. Young guy, good head on his shoulders, and he's doing some really good things for people out there as well. He was actually named in 2000 and I believe it was 2015, if I remember correctly. He was actually named the most charitable athlete. So when you get that title, obviously you must be doing something well. He once donated, Zach. These kind of things are just staggering to me, and he does it without even batting an eye. He once donated $83,000 to a 10-year-old fan in need of brain surgery. He then sent a cancer center in Portugal $165,000 after they treated the kid's mother for cancer. He's helped tsunami and earthquake victims over the years as well. He helps fight against childhood hunger. He also is very active in tackling obesity, which is obviously a big problem in our country. A quote to me that says all you need to know about Cristiano Ronaldo is a pretty cool quote. He says, "My father always taught me that when you help others, God will give you double. And that's what has really happened to me in my life." Ronaldo has, in his short time, being in the spotlight and being a big-time athlete, has really done some really cool things. Just a very charitable person, a very just giving person. And I've seen not even just like money and stuff like that, but I also have seen a lot of things, Zach, which is something cool about soccer that I don't think any other American sport is like, but he's done some really cool things as far as, like he'll go over to like random fans in the stands and like take the jersey off his back after a game, give it to him and it's, a lot of times it's to like a kid in a wheelchair or like a special needs kid or something like that. So, I mean, and it's like he does it without even like thinking. He's just a very giving person. So Cristiano Ronaldo, doing some really cool stuff, not in our country, but in the world as well, because at times we forget that there is other life out there besides the United States of America. So he's doing good things to keep our world a great place.
For sure. And I know I've seen video that you mentioned of him giving his jersey to whether it's some kind of special needs fan or a kid in the crowd or things like that. That I always love seeing that with different athletes too, that can be so meaningful. Because I remember when I was little, I went to a Ravens game and one of the players, it was a quarterback. I want to say Tony Smith, or Tony Banks. I'm pretty sure
Tony
it was.
Banks, yeah.
He tossed me his wristband, and that's something I kept.
Nice.
I was probably in like 4th grade, 5th grade, something like that, and I kept that for a long time. I'm not sure where it is now since my parents have moved. It's probably in their basement or something like that. But that was an awesome experience that he tossed that up to us. And I know that's a great feeling, especially when it's something even more significant like the jersey. That is very awesome to see from a player like that.
For sure.
So I've got 2 more guys that I'm going to talk about here that I kind of categorize them together. Both are doing great things here near me in the DC area. I'm just below that area where I'm living currently. So the first one's Vernon Davis. He's another Redskins player. I mentioned two of them earlier, but he grew up near the DC area, and now he's doing a lot to work with homelessness in that area here where he's playing for the Redskins. He's got his own foundation. It's called Vernon's Closet that he uses to help with that within the inner city and other places around here. So that was awesome to see. And then another guy who's currently not here but grew up in this DC area is Kevin Durant. And the thing I loved with his story is he at one point gave 3 different gifts of $150,000 to 3 places that he decided, 3 organizations that were just pivotal in his development during his youth as he was becoming who he is, but still developing and kind of figuring out where he was going, and some of the things that really stood out to him that changed his life. And I love seeing that. I'd love to be able to do that myself. With giving back to some of the organizations, some of the people that have kind of gotten me to where I am. So he had 3 different places. There's Seat Pleasant Activity Center. There was Community Kinship Coalition, and then the Maryland Jaguars Youth Organization. So all of them sound like community center kind of places, sports leagues, things like that, which are amazing for anyone to, whether it's simply to keep them out of trouble, whether it's to be around other people with similar interests, to learn sports, to improve at something, to learn a skill, to continue getting better. There's just so many benefits that come from places like that. No matter whether they become Kevin Durant and one of the best basketball players in the entire world, or whether it's someone that goes on to something totally different, those places have a huge effect. So I loved seeing him give $150,000 to each of those 3. And he's a guy who, even when he's moved on to a different team, he's now currently with Golden State, but he's still giving money to help homeless kids back in Oklahoma City, where he played for the majority of his career, even though he's not there anymore. And I found that across quite a few different athletes. Chris Paul was another that stood out, that's had different charities and organizations everywhere he's been, where he started out in New Orleans, there in LA with the Clippers, and now he's in Houston. I'm sure he'll do something great there as well. He's been an incredibly giving player. So I love seeing that in any player, any person, giving back to what got them to where they are. That's just fantastic to see in any way.
Yeah, absolutely. And I really like that Durant gave back to organizations that were pivotal in his upbringing. I mean, you don't forget stuff like that. I mean, you don't forget the people and the organizations that help mold you as a person and help you in your upbringing. So props to him and props to Vernon Davis as well. Vernon Davis, an athlete I've kind of always liked. I remember him at the University of Maryland. He was a freak. I mean, and still doing it to this day with the Redskins. I mean, he's still a productive player in the NFL. So, shout out to him as well. Those are some awesome guys doing some things really close to you, Zach. So anytime I totally get where you're coming from there. I mean, anytime it's going on basically in your backyard, you feel something there. And that's how my guy is, or excuse me, my last player is a former Eagles player. He's now in the LA Rams, but still doing big things in the city of Philadelphia, and that's Connor Barwin. Connor Barwin, I mean, what he did for the city of Philadelphia and helping the youth of Philadelphia is astounding. I mean, he renovated so many parks that were just broken down, abandoned, no kids played. I mean, they were like unsafe, terrible. And Connor Barwin said, look, these kids need places to do stuff. I mean, it's one thing to tell kids be good, stay on the straight and narrow, don't do drugs, don't do this, don't do that. But I mean, if they don't have places to be productive and to stay out of trouble, it's kind of pointless. So Connor Barwin opened up several parks, several projects. The big one was Ralph Brooks Park down in Philly. Was a project that he worked on for it went on for a while actually, and in relation with a few organizations, he was able to set up that park and to get everything to where he wanted to be. And he's a big activist in community service. He's been involved in numerous charitable events, raises a lot of money for different organizations. Actually, Bard himself raised $470,000 for that Ralph Brooks Park. So he's doing a lot of good things for the community. I'm sure he's doing some good things in the city of LA. He was a big spokesperson for SEPTA when he was here, and NRG Energy. He's very conscientious of all that kind of stuff. And he actually, right outside of the park, on the side of a it's like on the side of like row homes in cities. They have row homes,
Yeah.
and then on the very end, sometimes there'll be like murals and stuff on them.
Mm-hmm.
Well, on one, he actually had this quote painted on there. The backdrop is I'll paint the picture. The backdrop is pink and the lettering is yellow, so it really pops. And it reads on there, "Life tried to bury us, but we are the root and the seed." So think about that. Take that for what it will. And Connor Barwin, another guy out there that just a very good humanitarian and doing very good things for the community and doing good things, for the younger generation, which I think is extremely important. Anytime you can help kids better themselves, that's one of the better things you can do as a human being.
Definitely. And I love that quote. I have one more quote to finish out here. And
Yep.
when we go through all this, all the positive things these pro athletes are doing, you don't have to be a pro athlete to be able to give back to your community, to be able to help other people out. One of my favorite advice I received from a guy that's kind of been like a mentor to me. His name's Nee Shobo. He's got his own podcast. He played at one point in the NFL for the Saints. But the thing he taught me is that hoarding money, keeping money for yourself, it enforces a mentality of having limited money. And you'll always be stuck in that where you think you're not having enough money, you're not going to have enough money, and it's always going to be a problem. But when you give money away, you establish a mentality of abundance, and it opens you up to whether it's to earn more, to receive more, to kind of be open to that. When you're giving to other people, a lot of times those people, there's ways that'll come back to you, whether it's something that they do for you, whether it's just kind of, whether you call it karma or blessings or God or whatever you title it, that just, it's such a benefit to you. And whether you're a pro athlete, whether you're just doing your regular thing, your regular job, whether you're a student. I've been a teacher for 4 years. I know so many kids, so many parents that $10, $20 would make a huge difference. There's students in every district that can't afford food, they can't afford shoes, whether it's clothes, whatever it is, and you can have that effect within your community, whether or not you have a lot of money or not. And that's one thing I just kind of want to close out on there, that you don't have to be a pro athlete. You can give back. You can do what you can. It doesn't have to be amazing. And if you don't have money, you got time. You can give to people with your time, contribute it, whether it's volunteering, whether it's helping like mentor someone younger. There's so many great ways to do that. And it's something I highly, highly encourage for everyone to do.
Absolutely. I can't echo that sentiment enough. I mean, I myself, like I said, I'm trying to figure out something to do because I've really wanted to try and impact people's lives in a positive way. And I'm trying to, like I said, I'm in the brainstorming process now, so I'm trying to figure something out. Like Zach said, help people out. And look, it can be something simple as like holding the door for the person behind you, like just something, just keep everything positive and just be a positive person and do good for yourself and for the community and for people in general. So by doing that, you in turn become a better person. So a very good little episode here tonight, Zach. I really liked it, full of positive energy, positive stories, and I hope people get a positive outlook and a positive message out of this. So yeah, I love it. Anything you want to close on?
Yeah, same thing. I love the positive energy here. That's one thing we want to do. Look for that positivity that a lot of times gets overlooked or completely ignored when we see these negative headlines, and these things get pushed to the end or completely ignored. And we want to highlight them. Some of these amazing things that people are doing. And like I said, there's so many things we didn't even get to. There's so many stories, amazing things, amazing organizations, charities, all kinds of stuff that people within sports have helped establish. They're helping grow, promote, all things like that. Plus, so many teams do amazing things when it comes to education, helping out in schools, whether it's in hospitals, things like that, helping out within their community. And we want to highlight that and make sure people know about that. So we're not always focused on the negativity. You can find that elsewhere. Come here to get your positive dose for the week.
Absolutely, Zach. Well said. And last thing I'll say too is just because you do something good and you do something positive, you do something great for someone, does not mean you have to run and put it on social media. Do it because it's the right thing to do, and do it because it makes you feel good. So, Zach, great job tonight. I look forward to our next little off-the-wall segment that we have kind of started to do here. And, yeah, that's it, man. Good stuff.
There we go, everyone. Have a great week. Be positive. Enjoy yourselves. Thank you so much for listening to the Lifelong Rivals Sports Podcast. We really appreciate it. We've changed some things up based on some of the feedback we've received, so we'd love to continue hearing your feedback. As we continue to build this platform with our podcast, it's very helpful to us if you can share it with the people you know that you think would be interested. We'd really appreciate it. Thank you so much, and have a great week.